Everybody, we are back. It is Taped Online, favorite podcast, favorite channel, favorite is everything. We are back. Hit the subscribe button, subscribe. Hit the like button if you like it. Hit the dislike button if you don't like it. Leave a comment if you like it. Leave a comment if you don't like it. Also, follow us on Twitter at the Mark John NFL for me, at Glen Rockney for Glenn, at mholder95 for Matt, and of course, pandasups.com, discount code TDL for 35% off. All right, guys. So me and Matt, we're gonna do a film review today. I had Aiden O'Connell. I was gonna do Aiden O'Connell. I was gonna show the pros and cons of whether Aiden O'Connell could be a starter. I was ready to go. I was and Matt was gonna do Cameron Richardson. We were ready to go, like especially at the last night. And there's no firing. He's at a press conference and he's talking about like all the coaches going to change and all that shit. And we're like, oh. And then, oh, shit. It's a firing in the middle of the day. So here we are.
It's a shame the starter jacket didn't save his job, man.
Yeah. It was a great starter jacket. It was.
In retrospect, that was probably a desperation cry. The jacket, like, you can't say no to me with this. You can't say no to me in the starter jacket.
I wonder if like his agent was like, here's what you do to like show some solidarity, like, or not solidarity, but like that, like confidence that you like have, like you're gonna be gone or you're gonna be back. It's like just wear the jacket. Don't go the opposite route of like wearing like the Lane Kiffin route of wearing like the nondescript gear or whatever. Like wear your Raider pride. Show your fandom.
Well, he has time to be a fan now.
Yes, he does. He's back to being a Raiders fan. I mean, he's a Raiders fan again, and he's back to it. He's back to it. So we are here going to discuss the firing of Antonio Pierce. Coach Antonio Pierce got fired today around what? Like, I don't know what time, like what? 11 o'clock or something like that? I don't know.
It felt like that, yeah, around that time.
So, yeah.
Anyways, your thoughts, guys. Give us your thoughts.
I mean, I think we talked about it. It's funny because it did seem like he was gaining momentum, like even in the national media, like was starting to pound the table that he might be, or starting to say that he might be safe, and then all of a sudden it just kind of came out of nowhere. So I do wonder if like Mark Davis was legitimately like just sitting in his bed at night last night, like contemplating it, like making a pros and cons list on his PF Chang's napkin, trying to figure it out, but. The timing is weird because I would have thought like it would have been a slam dunk decision. Like I think I said weeks ago, I kind of hope Mark's just already made up his mind and not using these those two wins at the end of the season that were, again, Sunday's loss kind of prove were just basically jokes at that point playing against inferior opponents. So it does kind of support the theory that Mark Davis was legitimately contemplating bringing him back. And then to end up getting rid of him, kind of feel like Brady had some influence on it at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, you figure Sunday, right? Sunday happens. Brady's calling the Fox game or whatever, and flying back, doing all that stuff. I think finally, on Monday, I expected news to happen. I was leaning towards he was going to get fired, but there was this weird thing where I was like, there's a 40% chance, which I thought most of Raider Nation was like at a 5% chance. Like, no chance he's back. No chance. I said, I don't know, man. Like, how attractive is this job right now? If they put some feelers out and people were like, I'm not really interested at the moment. But then today you get the alert like, oh, okay, so it happened. There has to be some sort of this guy's interested in coming here, therefore create the vacancy. Like I feel like that's the only way this makes sense.
Yeah, because there was like the PR pitch a little bit already of like I think it was I don't know if it was Schefter, Rappaport, or one of the NFL Network guys who was talking about like Mark Davis knows like the quarterback situation was bad and the injuries and like it was like I'm like damn is that coming from AP's agent or is that coming from Mark Davis where it's like that was kind of what led me to believe like oh yeah maybe they are like legit going to stick with them because the PR pitch was coming out in the media. So, but then Glenn, I think you're right. I think Vinny even talked about or mentioned it or someone knows Josina Anderson. That's right. That they had like two candidates that they were basically just trying to see if they were interested in or if they were interested in the job. And then when they got the news they wanted, pulled the trigger on AP. So.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, even have AP go out there and do that press conference, because the press conference is what made me feel like that he might keep the job, because he was talking about the future, right?
Yeah.
Those type of things, and you know what he's gonna, how he's gonna change, and all those things he was talking about. I was like, okay, all right. So they're gonna keep him then, because why would he go up there talking like that if they're not gonna keep him,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
Um,
that was partially him talking to Mark Davis and being like, "This is my plan," a little bit. Which I would think he had that moment to do it in private, but at the same time, maybe wanted to do it publicly to maybe try and put pressure on him. But yeah, to your point, that was part of the weird part, is that the whole presser.
Yeah. Yeah, because you figure, you know, like New York Giants are keeping Dable and the GM over there. They're keeping them, and I was like, oh man, is that what we're gonna do too? I thought there was gonna just be. I was already in my mindset like, okay, if they're keeping him, let's literally figure out how to run the ball next year. That's gonna be like my whole entire thing. Like, let's learn how to run the ball again, and then maybe this job becomes just slightly more attractive. There's less to fix, and then you're hopefully find a way to get a quarterback in here. But also that whole time, and there were fans, man, I was getting some crazy DMs. I don't know about you guys yesterday. Just people like that were like arguing with me, even though I didn't disagree with them. They were like, no, you can't keep them. I'm like, well, they might. I don't know. I'm not. There were people like really mad. It was a very, like, probably a top 5 mad Raider Nation day yesterday, even though for something the case. But there were people saying, like, who comes here to be a coordinator? Right? Because it's clearly a one more lame duck year, right? Like with if you were to keep him. So people were like, go bring in Clint Kubiak. It's like, well, Clint Kubiak's not going to want to go for 2 lame duck head coaches in a year if he wants to keep a job over there. And also going to a place where Derek Carr is your best option, you know? So I was just thinking, who do you hire? You do have to clean house. Like, you do have to finally get rid of the McDaniels people, and it sucks because to an outsider and to really anybody around the league, they're like, you're turning over too much. Players don't like that. The organization doesn't like that. And outsiders don't really like coming in there. But also, you got to do it, because who's going to come be a coordinator?
Yeah, I think that was one of my biggest gripes too. And is like, if you think about it, like, again, what top offensive coordinator is going to want to come work for AP? Like, you'd almost have to keep Norv Scott Turner. Not saying they did a bad job, and that wouldn't be a bad option, but like, you're not going to get one of these attractive candidates because they're like, I'm not going to leave my situation, which, if chances are, if you're a candidate for a promotion, you're in probably a good situation, and go leave it for one where I could be gone in a worse spot next year. And I think too, part of it, I don't know if this influenced it, but like Patrick Graham not signing the contract extension and being a free agent coach, like they might have had to look for an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And he would have had 2, again, lame duck, like guys that you pretty much just have to take a flyer on, or bottom of the barrel candidates because of that reason.
Yeah, and that's my thing with it too. Like, with AP, when he was gonna have to kind of rebuild the staff, right? I mean, if you're gonna rebuild the staff all together, right? I mean, you might as well just kind of rebuild with the coach, because was the OC gonna come back? I don't know. Was Patrick Graham was definitely not coming back, right? So I mean, you kind of felt that he wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
So I think that played a part into it. It was just super interesting that Mark Davis even let him walk out there and talk like that, because that's what made this a little bit of a not necessarily that it was shocking, but it was a little bit, because after yesterday you're thinking like, okay, maybe he has a job. But today, obviously, that is a no. So it was interesting from that aspect, but yeah.
It was surprising, but then again, when you think about it, this is the same organization and owner who had JDR announce his own firing after the game. So, standpoint, it's not like it's totally off brand for Mark Davis.
Yeah, if you were to tell me what happened, like, okay, there's a team that went 4-13, their coach is on the hot seat, they're going to let him do the press conference and then fire him, and you told me to guess the organization, I'd pick the Raiders every time. Like, it's just, I hate hearing this from other people, because you're like, man, but it is annoying and whatever. Like, this could all this could all be for naught if they hire somebody good. Like no one's going to care how they fired AP. If you don't bring in somebody good, we're going to hear about how they can't even fire a coach properly.
Yeah, it's the Raiders and the Bears. Because Eberflus had it. If you remember, Eberflus had his presser, and they were literally talking about his job status. He got fired like an hour after it.
Yeah, Raiders and the Bears.
Verified air. We're in.
That makes sense. Raiders and the Bears. That fits. Because
if you think about it, the Raiders. Just sorry, as a side note, if you think about it, the Raiders have some of the most interesting coach like firings or partings in the last like 20 years. Like Gruden getting traded, which I believe was unprecedented at the time. Lane Kiffin in the overhead projector with Al.
The best.
JDR announcing his own one. AP having a press conference with the starter jacket and talking about the future and getting fired the next day. Like they, when they fire a coach, man, they do it big. That's fitting for Vegas, man. They put on a show.
Yeah, Dennis Allen being left in London, like basically
after 4 games.
Yeah. Mark Davis he's definitely keeping the tradition alive because that's the thing is like because I really expected it after the game last on Sunday. Like after the game on Sunday, I really felt like he was going to get fired just because just the way the game went and the fans, the Chargers fans cheering over Raiders fans, all that shit kind of just was going to add up to him getting fired. So him having the press conference was shocking to me too. I'm like, man. So he's having this press conference. So he kept the job, and then you're like, nope, he's done. It's over with. So, you're right. Maybe he went and like had a thought process or, talked to Tom Brady and some of the guys around him. And I saw somebody say something that they found out the 2 head coaches, some coaches that they were looking into, and they just said those guys were interested in the job, so they decided to go and get rid of AP, which because the thing with AP, the big thing to me was the situation of football, right? I mean, you could talk about the way the team played, you could talk about everything else. It was more all about like being a head coach, especially if you're going to be like that CEO head coach that he was trying to portray himself as. Like he was trying to portray himself as that Dan Campbell type because Dan Campbell is a tight end coach. He doesn't really do too much, right? Like offensively,
he's not
like
a scheme guy.
Exactly, right. And you can say whether AP is a scheme guy or not on defense. That's a conversation that you can have for yourself. But you could just kind of tell when you have that CEO role, and then you can't hire good coaches around you. And then, I talked about this a lot with Matt on Insurrection. Calling timeout with 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
It's those type of things that bother me with AP. Like, you just don't see that from the normal NFL head coach, somebody calling timeout with 5 minutes left, those type of things, wasting timeouts, not using timeouts when you need to use timeouts. I mean, the Chargers game, he allowed it to like get to like 1 minute, and the Chargers ended up punting or something like that when he could have called some timeouts. It was those type of things with AP that are an issue, like when to go for a 4th down. I don't know what he's listening to. I don't know what he's doing over there. So it's those type of things with him as a coach that were just kind of ugly.
And that, like the 4th down thing, I was going to touch on too, is like when people compared AP to Dan Campbell, like and like, oh, he's the guy, the players coach, the hard ass that like toes the line of like being like chummy with the players and still getting the most out of them and all that stuff, the leader of men and all that stuff. But I think like when you don't also have the confidence on the field, like going for it on 4th down, like gambling, like Dan Campbell does some of the stupidest decisions we've ever seen him go for on 4th down. But you know what? Those guys believe in him, or those guys feel like they believe, or he believes in them. You know what I mean? And like, I think when you do the rah stuff and like you do the motivation, well, that works to a certain extent. I mean, players in the locker room talked about how they appreciated that. But when then you also don't do it on the field and you don't show the confidence and you do a lot of straight up cowardly punts and don't go for it and roll the dice and gamble on your guys, like that sends a little bit of a message. And on top of it too, I think we've talked about this plenty of times on the pod and on the reactions. It seemed like every time he chose the safe route, it blew up in his face, and it ended up being a terrible decision anyway. Or the defense like gave up a long play, or the literal worst case scenario ended up happening, and he just kept doing the same damn thing over and over again, even when the season was lost and you had nothing to play for. So that was the frustrating part for me with the AP era.
Yeah, and you can, for me, it was the philosophy really at the beginning of the season. And I'm somebody who really wanted him to have the job, but at the beginning of the season, you hear his press conference. And he's like, "We want to run the football. We want to do play action. We want to run the football." Okay, well, you have Zamir White and Alexander Madison as your like probably the worst running back room in the league. If we're being real, like that's a terrible running back room. You couldn't have told me you couldn't have seen Sincere McCormick sometime in camp, like just showing a little bit of creativity, like just, and then picking the wrong quarterback. None of us expect Aiden O'Connell to lead them to the playoffs. However, you just like, it was just, there were things on the roster. Is it the best roster? No. Did he get the offensive coordinator that he wanted at the beginning? No. But there were just simple layup decisions to make. Like, you went undefeated in the division starting Aiden O'Connell in your interim time. Like, wouldn't you just by default, like, even just if it was 50-50, just go, yeah, I'm going to go with the guy last year that did that. And it was, to me, and then they're missing all these tackles on defense. What we all thought, or anybody who believed in Pierce when he got the job, because now everyone pretends they didn't like it at the time now, but people were psyched about it. Let's be real. And when that, we all thought like this defense is going to come out and play like above their talent level, like because they're just playing insane, like because they're motivated. This guy's got them ready to run through a brick wall. They played hard, but it's like, what more was he going to extract from an even better roster, And we're just hoping Jaden Daniels got to us so he could bail us out. Is that what we were hoping for?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, at the end of the day, no, I think, and part of it, what you were touching on a little bit there, with sorry, I just lost my train of thought a little bit there.
The run game.
Well, sorry, what were you saying earlier? What was one of your you saying at the beginning there? I missed that part.
Oh, just like his philosophy, just like he want to run the ball, but then you're throwing. To me, I was just like, they end up throwing the ball 35 times a game with Aiden O'Connell, and it's like, that's how we got to that, where it was like you had the opportunity to make some like changes. I thought that could have worked with the roster.
No, and I think O'Connell's where I was going with that. It was like, if you even heard him say yesterday, like he didn't say it explicitly, but he was like, I wish I had gone with my gut at the beginning of the season. It's like, but like at the same time, like, why didn't you?
Yeah.
Like, why did it take you so long to bench Gardner Minshew if you thought all along that Aiden O'Connell was your guy? And again, he didn't say that wasn't what it was, but that's kind of the implication at that stage. And it's like, well, I mean, it's not like Gardner Minshew was lighting it up in the preseason. Again, it does sound like he was doing better in training camp, but like, it's like, dude, just stick with your gut. It felt like when he got the full-time job, he kind of like curled up into a ball a little bit and went against his, like, everything he said in his press conferences. And what he portrayed wasn't what he actually ended up being on the job.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was my thing. Like, I think the year before, coming in and just being different than Josh McDaniels was good enough. But I think this year you got to kind of put your own imprint on this team. And I think, to be honest, I feel like he did that too late. I feel like the way the season went, you saw guys really push for him late in the season, but I feel like that it wasn't something that was constant throughout the year. It was people pushing for him to actually be the NFL head coach. So like the season ended well. So like you have some players behind it, and we finished strong, and he kept us grounded or whatever. But you kind of feel it was a little bit different at the beginning of the year, right? Things were moving a little bit different. Players were acting crazy, like the Panthers game, right? The Panthers game was just business decisions, right? And him going out and say that, which it did happen when you watch the film. You kind of see the Panthers game. There was business decisions made, but you could kind of tell right then and right there that maybe the season might start spiraling because maybe he wasn't handling the locker room like he should. Maybe he wasn't, being as accountable as he should. And then they had that team meeting in the middle of the season. Remember that was reported there, the team meeting in the middle of the season, and guys were mad, say he's not holding accountability. So I think all those things factored in. So maybe he ended the season better as a head coach, and maybe he can make the case like if I went to year 2, I would have been a better head coach than I was year 1. But he just didn't have. It wasn't going to work out like that for him.
And I think part of it too is like the way I compare it is like when he took over from McDaniels, it was like getting like the cool substitute teacher. You know what I mean? Where like you bring this guy in as like for part of the season as like everyone gets more excited and does like all the rah stuff and like you get like into it. But then when like you give the substitute teacher like the full-time job and they realize like, oh, there's a lot more to this than what I remembered from last year, where it's like, now I got to hire a staff. I got to manage more personalities. I got to work with the new GM and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, this is why someone like Josh McDaniels was such an asshole or whatever. This is why that teacher wasn't that great, because they had so much other on their plate, almost other stuff on their plate, that they had to balance it. And I think part of AP's problem is similar to what, like, to compare him to like a guy that also got fired with Gerard Mayo, where Robert Kraft is like, I hired him too soon. I kind of feel like you can put AP in that same category. Like if you think about it, like AP's only been an NFL head coach for, this was his third year, right? Because he brought on with McDaniels 2 years ago. And like, I think that's part of the issue is like I don't think he really fully grasped how much extra or how much stuff that was, or responsibilities that he was going to have to manage with the head coach job. And I don't think he was really ready. Like who knows, maybe 10 years from now, AP could be like, AP could end up being a good head coach now that he has the experience and he has more experience as a coach. But I think right now it was just like, they gave him the job a little bit too early, looking back on it in hindsight, and the fact that he only had 2 years, or at the time only had 2 years in the NFL coaching experience. And even at the college level, he was at ASU for 4 years. So like he just hadn't been at this level in his role. I know he played in the NFL, but he just hadn't been an NFL coach for long enough to really know how to manage it and manage everyone's personalities and all the extra stuff that comes on with being the legit full-time head coach. Because as you guys have mentioned, I mean, he even admitted that he did a shitty job hiring people in the offseason by firing 3 of the guys he hired, 6 months before he hired them or whatever.
Yeah. And the weird thing too is like, okay, not championing Scott Turner, but I think the offense looked slightly better. That's not saying much after Getsy. So say you miss out on Cliff Kingsbury. Why do you have to go bring in Luke Getsy? Like, why don't you just go like, I have Scott Turner, fine. It's not the guy we wanted, but he's on here. The guys know him, and we could have like done, it was just so, it never felt like an organic process. Like it was tough to like understand like what he was doing a lot of times. It would always be like, okay, 4th down, we're going for it. Oh, I guess we're punting. Oh no, now we're going for it. It was just this.
It never made sense.
Yeah, there was no identity to the team, and he started panicking. It was kind of like when you start just calling 4 verticals all the time in Madden, because like I suck. And not that I would do that, but I just mean other people when they play me do that. But just it's just this like, man, I want a competent person coaching the Raiders, man. It's like, a competent we had McDaniels, who wasn't a great head coach anywhere. Gruden, I would say, was a competent person, but had too much control of the team, and there wasn't really an order that was. If we had Telesco, I think that would be a lot better back then, like as an actual GM.
Yeah.
That being said, it just seems like it's been a while since we've had just like a competent head coach, really since Del Rio. I mean, like, I would say he was a competent head coach. I wouldn't say he was great, but he finished his tenure with the Raiders 25-23.
Yeah.
The winningest head coach in Mark Davis's tenure, right? Got the highest winning percentage, I think.
Yeah. To be fair to Gruden, I will say this. I mean, we don't know how that year finishes if Gruden doesn't have those emails drop, right? Yeah. Because they did look really good on offense that year. I mean, Derek Carr still threw for 4,800 yards that year. They looked really good on offense that year. I mean, defense was still whatever. It's Gus Bradley. You see how he looks with the Colts right now.
Right. Also got fired.
Yeah, he got fired too. But that's what I'm saying.
He got cooked by Drew Lock.
Exactly. Right. So those type of things were there that last year that we don't know how that Gruden era finishes. That's the hard thing with Gruden, because there was a lot of 8-8s, 7-9s, or whatever right there in between there. And maybe, like they said, the 2020 season was disappointing, but the 2021 season, we just don't know how that season finishes.
Right.
To be the sake that Gruden is bad, in my opinion.
It was just the idea that you just knew they were going to screw up the first round of the draft almost 90% of the time.
Yeah,
we were like, man, if we had one more just like game changing first round pick, with Gruden. That was my problem. I liked him as a coach. It was just we just need like literally to hit a home run on the first round of this draft. This is already a team that's building talent, and they're like, out best I could do is Alex Leatherwood, and when you had guys there, not to relive that, I just mean like it's never the perfect combination. It's never good coach, good GM. It's always like coach that Mark was, said you can have the keys to the entire organization. You can pick all the players. This will be your team, where nobody else would do that. Right. And then with Antonio Pierce, it's just like, hey, just call your old friends. Your old friends will help you and guide you through it. Just call Tom Coughlin every month. What do they talk about together? Like what nothing changed.
Yeah. And that was part of the frustrating thing with AP is like you have like 10 former head coaches on the staff or whatever that's in your corner, and it's like you keep making these same mistakes and these same screw ups. It's like are you either getting terrible advice or are you just not listening? But either way, it's not working.
Right.
One thing I do want to say though, Gruden's best accomplishment as the Raiders head coach was overcoming John Gruden, the GM. Like you guys said, the first round misses. They had no business winning as many games as they did in some of those instances.
No, they did. I still love Gruden's passing game. His run game is hit and miss, and you can talk about that, and his short yardage run game or whatever. But his passing game was still pretty special. I still agree with that. I mean, all you can do is look at Derek Carr now, and then look at Derek Carr 4 years of John Gruden. He threw 4,000 yards 4 times. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you know what I mean? So. If you did bring back, John Gruden, which I think that is for some reason I feel like that's a thing.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Is it legit a thing, or is it like a fan theory like that?
I don't know. I feel like that it might be a thing.
He's still suing the NFL, isn't he? I guess so is Brian Flores.
But that's why he might get his job back, because he's suing the NFL, and he actually
Brian Flores sued the NFL,
right?
Yeah, Brian Flores. Yeah,
and he
now he's a head coach candidate, I guess.
Nobody picked he got a DC job. I mean, I don't think it's gonna happen. I just mean like, okay, Gruden is not the hot shot hire from ESPN at this point. He is I'm looking to get back in the league. So no, you may not draft anybody. I don't have to. I don't have to let you be I don't have to hire a TV guy that you can just draft by proxy through, like I don't have to do that for you. A lot of fans won't like it. I don't know. To me, it's the last time I've enjoyed the Raiders offense. So it's tough for me to like get away from it, but let's be real. Like, who do you guys like? To me right now, my kind of the guy I don't see getting talked about as much. He interviewed once with the Jets. I like Brian Griese. I would bring in Brian Griese. And because Brian Griese doesn't call plays in San Francisco, obviously, but if you ask around a lot of people and you hear it on like local radio, they talk about like, Griese gets a lot of credit for Brock Purdy, more so than Kyle Shanahan gets in terms of developing him. Scheming, we're talking, that's obviously Shanahan and stuff, but in terms of developing him, and to me, it's like whatever the next coach is, you're going to have to tell them like, hey, ignore that we hired or that we fired, 2 guys in the last like 3 years and some change. Ignore that. Because you're here for 4 years, no matter what. We know we don't have a quarterback on the roster right now. I think you can convince a guy like Brian Griese, Liam Cohen to go, hey, you're going to have time to get your guy. I need you to get us to run the football again and maximize this young offensive line, and we'll try to find you another toy in the draft, and build with that.
Yeah, and I think you touched on the problem. Like part of the problem with hiring them is like Mark Davis is going to have to really do a good sell job because of, again, what is it? This is going to be a 6th hire in 15 years, 6th full-time hire in 15 years.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, whoever they get, if they do want to get one of these, like a Liam Cohen or someone like one of these hot names, like you're going to almost not quite the Gruden 10-year, like $100 million deal or whatever it was, but you're going to have to probably be like, look, this is a 5-year deal. You're probably going to have to give them a good amount of guaranteed money and be like, have to be like, I give you my word. I understand the quarterback situation is not good. I even understand that this year it's not looking great to get a new one. So I'm going to have to instill confidence in you. And that's going to have to be with him opening up the checkbook and probably giving a long contract too.
Yeah. What other head coach candidates are out there? So you got like Liam Cohen. I know that's a big one that people want. Most people ask us to do a Liam Cohen breakdown and try to see what's happening with that offense. So Liam Cohen is a big one. Pete Carroll is a rumor out there.
Please
Pete
no.
Carroll's out there, right? That's a big one.
I don't know. Vrabel, you have Vrabel, who's
Mike
obviously
Vrabel, right? Who else? So I mean, Brian Flores might be a candidate, right? I mean, there's Aaron Glen.
I would say Wes Phillips is a dark horse for the Vikings offensive coordinator. A lot of people are going to want a piece of whatever the Vikings are doing on offense over there.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Brady too. I mean,
Joe Brady's another guy. Yeah, he's another guy.
Joe Brady, he's getting interviewed by the Jets, I believe. So he is obviously a head coach candidate. William C. said Mike McCarthy. This is LOL, just kidding. So
why does everybody hate Mike McCarthy? He wins double-digit games.
I mean, Mike McCarthy does win a lot. I'm sure Mike McCarthy's the head coach, but he just, I don't know. That wouldn't get excitement from.
Yeah,
no, but it would be. But I asked for competence. He's competent.
I mean, they just the Cowboy. My Cowboys fan wife is pissed because they're gonna re-sign McCarthy because they just denied his interview to the Bears, and I think his contract's up on the 14th. So I think the fact that they didn't let him go interview probably is a pretty good sign that the Cowboys are going to give him an extension.
Gotcha.
And the fact that they haven't fired him 2 days into the window, if you will, of firing or not bringing back a coach. So yeah, I think Mike McCarthy's probably going back to Dallas.
I mean, it would put them in the weirdest spot ever. Like, like Dallas, like you're going to get rid of him and who's going to come coach the Cowboys? Like, it doesn't make, yeah, you're right. Yeah. But I'm just thinking of who's, like I said, greasy. People they didn't have the best year, but Bobby Slowick's going to be a guy people talk about. He's very forward thinking. He's going to be a guy that's fine with having a game management guy, like the picture of Marcus Freeman right next to him. He's going to be okay with that stuff. PFF guy, their offense is not that good this year, but you do have to. It was very good last year, so you have to split the middle of that. He's going to get looked at, I think.
Yeah, and I think with Slowick, like there's two things working in his favor. One, Shanahan McVay tree with basically the same thing, and two, yes, this past year wasn't good. I know they had issues on the offensive line. I mean, Stephon Diggs, who's supposed to be a big part of their offense, went out like halfway through the year, but at the end of the day, he at least has a good track record of working with a rookie quarterback in CJ Stroud to bolster.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's also Drew Petzeg from the Cardinals who he actually get an interview too. So
he got an interview with the Bears. I saw.
Yeah, he got an interview with the Bears. There's him. I mean,
Todd Monken, shout out Big STD in the thing.
Yeah, I mean, Todd Monken's another one, but Todd Monken, he hasn't got any interviews. Nobody's actually.
He's got a game. He's got a game this weekend. Maybe he's just all ball. You never know.
Yeah, maybe that might be a point. I mean, because even with the Lions have a bye, so that's why Ben Johnson's probably getting some Aaron Glenn too. But yeah, I do want to talk about Pete Carroll because I think for some reason that is very intriguing to me. It's not intriguing. It's just like,
dude, he's like 72 years old.
I feel like that could happen though. Like we're all like, ew, Pete Carroll. He's 73 years old, and I get it, but his name being mentioned, like when you thought about, okay, when the Raiders fire somebody, did your mind ever go to Pete Carroll being like one of the first guys? If you Google them right after AP was fired, he's all over every single article as a guy that they could hire. Were you thinking that? So since that is out there, like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, he's also being mentioned with the Bears too. I just wonder if Pete Carroll's agent is like, I'll text Schefter that you're available. I mean, he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. Now
Flory over here.
Yeah, we're not exactly above Pete Carroll. Let's be real. We're not above Pete Carroll coming in here. It wouldn't excite me, but I wouldn't be doom and gloom the way, like, the guy's clearly knows what he's doing. Like he's a good coach. Again,
he does have a good track record. It's just for me the fact that like he's older.
Yeah,
and it's like how much longer is Pete Carroll legitimately going to coach? Like I'm curious, like how old actually is he? I just threw that number out there. I don't know if he's actually 72, but if he is, like, I know he's at least close to his 70s. So it's like, how long can we expect him to be there? And part of it for me is I'd almost rather go the opposite route of getting like a young offensive coach.
Yeah. Well,
here's 73, excuse me. So yeah, if he coached 5 years, he'd almost be 80.
He's seen Belichick get a job, and he's like, "Well, now I have to get a job." But here's my counter to that. Let's say Pete Carroll, like, obviously, how long can he coach? doubt it. I mean, he looks good, so you can't take.
Pete Carroll's very healthy.
He's in good shape. He's in good shape.
Pete Carroll is a
He's
very
a
healthy
mid
73.
He might have 10 years of coaching left in him, like if he wants to. He's the guy, like like I said, he looks like he works at the Sharper Image, dude. He's popped up, like he's crazy. But let's just say, if you are a young offensive coordinator, that's a good job because you might take over as head coach at some point. So I'm kind of playing chess with it a little bit and kind of devil's advocate, but like it's not my first thing. But if you're going with Pete Carroll, you're like, okay, let's say we go and we win a little bit, and then Pete Carroll's like, all right, the Raiders are in the playoffs, and I don't think I can do this anymore. I think I'm done. I'm gonna go home. Like you might get the job, and that part to me is a little bit interesting. But like you said, I'd rather go the young route. I'd rather buy early on somebody. I know we just did that, but I think it's a little bit different with Pierce rather than bringing in somebody who's runs their offense, is the ability to call plays. That to me is where I would go young.
Yeah. See, I mean, with Pete Carroll, I mean, I think Pete Carroll's still a good coach, right? So I think he would still build a structure around what the Raiders like to do. And, Pete Carroll had the vision to see that Russell Wilson was falling off the cliff. We could all talk about what Pete Carroll does and what he did, but he also saw that Geno Smith might be pretty decent. I don't think he's a bad as head coach as people are mad about his age, but he's still a good head coach. So at the end of the day, like you feel like, okay, maybe he had to retire at some point, or maybe there had to be like a succession or something like that would have to lead to him doing that or whatever, right? But I still think that at the end of the day, he's still a good head coach. Even his last year with the Seahawks, I don't remember what the record was, but they were a bad team before they had ended up letting him go. It's more about that he is a good head coach, so right? I mean, especially because he's basically AP with success, which is the raw players coach type of thing. It wouldn't be too much of like a change in culture, but it would be like a better culture fit in with those things. But I do see the other point of it where he's older, but I just don't think that it would be that terrible of a hire as people.
I agree.
Make it seem.
I will say it would be fun to watch him and Jim Harbaugh reunite the rivalry.
Oh
those
yeah,
guys, you guys know those. They know they hate each other back to the Stanford USC days. What was it? Harbaugh went for 2. Yeah, they had the handshake line. They're all pissed off at each other.
Yeah, and you could find some Seattle and Saints games, Seahawks and Saints games with Sean Payton. I'm sure they had some battles if you looked in the past too. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It wouldn't like get me fired up. I'd have to see the staff.
Yeah.
I like I said, the thing that's giving me hope right now about the Raiders, because this is also something that hasn't been true in the past, is that they had a really nice first 3 rounds of the draft. The process in getting Brock Bowers and going like, I don't care if I have Michael Mayer on the team right now, that the previous GM spent a top, whatever pick, top 35 pick on. I'm excited. I found a generational blue chip talent. And if they just keep doing that, I think they're going to be okay. And it allows them to, like, again, you don't need a coach to come in and correct everybody's mistakes. Like if they're able to just keep accumulating talent and not just whiff in the first round like they have in the years past, I think, bringing in just a guy who can be a leader, which we know Pete Carroll can lead. We know, a few other guys. We know Mike Vrabel can lead, even though I have my qualms about him as well.
Yeah.
We know those guys can lead. It's just we've never had the talent's here and the coach is here to make it work. It just always seems like, crap, we got to hit on every pick because our coach sucks, or we're drafting like some okay guys, and our coach can't get anything out of them, and it just, or vice versa. Like our coach is good, but he can't draft,
Yeah. I agree with that. I was about to say something. I totally forgot what I was about to say. So Vrabel. Let's talk about Mike Vrabel then. Right? So we talk about Pete Carroll a little bit. Vrabel is a big name, and I know he's got a lot of hype, especially with the Patriots. The Patriots might go with Ben Johnson though, because they got Drake May, right? So that might be enticing to Ben Johnson to coach Drake May. Even though I don't know if he throws a dig route like Jared Goff does, but we'll see. But if that happens and Vrabel is the coach, My concern with Vrabel is offense.
Yep.
Yeah.
People have this like that Vrabel is like this guy who had great offenses, like Arthur Smith, right? If you look back at it at this point, I mean, Arthur Smith is not the best offensive coordinator in the world. If you see what he's doing with the Steelers, what he did with the Falcons, he's not the best offensive coordinator in the world. It was more like a guy who had Derrick Henry in his prime. And he used to be able to play action with off Derrick Henry with Ryan Tannehill, who didn't care if he got hit or not. Ryan Tannehill didn't care at all. If you were smashing him in his helmet every single time, he would throw it as far as he could to A.J. Brown off play action or throw a dig off play action. And I don't know if Mike Vrabel can bring the offense that we really want to be excited about. Yeah, they might play great defense. They're going to play hard. They're going to be a great team. I mean, they're definitely going to be mediocre, at least, because that's what the Titans were every time he was there. They're mediocre, at least. It's more about what he would do on offense.
Yeah, that's a fair concern. I think the proponents of Vrabel is basically he's what you were hoping AP would be, right? That type of players coach who is a hard ass, but at the same time like can relate with the guys and get buy-in from the locker room. Like, and I think he can do a better job of filling that CEO role, and I think that's what he did well at Tennessee. But I think you are right. Like, if we're looking at is this team gonna get a young quarterback, whether it's this year or next year? I don't trust Mike Vrabel as much as a guy like a Liam Cohen or a Joe Brady or Bobby Slowick to be able to develop that guy and work with that guy. Because, I mean, I forget what the timeline was, but he was the one who benched Mariota and started Tannehill, right? But I mean, Tannehill was already a vet and had been in the league for a while. I know he didn't have a ton of success in Miami, but he's a decent quarterback there. So it's not like he has a good track record of developing a guy. But I do think like if you want to stick with what the vision was with AP, Vrabel's going to be your guy. I'm not saying that he's my pick, my proponent. I like Liam Cohen. I like Joe Brady. I like the young offensive guys better. But I could see where they're going from with that of like, this is the guy that we want to be the CEO, be the leader of men, as the buzzword as we'll hear for the next 6 months.
And you're gonna need it in Vegas too. You're gonna need it in Vegas. Like the Vegas thing is true. You know, like some of the, I kind of think there might have. I'm interested. Look, we're moving on. We're moving forward from AP, but I expect some things to come out about Vegas and AP and things like that. Like, because this didn't seem like the most disciplined team.
No, not to the end of the year. That's what I'm saying. At the beginning of the year, they were not. At the beginning of the year, you could tell they were disciplined.
Yeah, so because that was kind of the disappointing thing. You are going to need to bring in somebody who can handle this, you know, like handle the Las Vegas part of it, and you know, players that go out at night and do this, and there being a leader is going to be very important. What you want, you're hoping, like, can this team get lucky once on a hire? Like, I swear, like, can we have like the Vikings? Vikings got really not lucky with Kevin O'Connell. I'm sure they did plenty of research and stuff, but no one cared when they hired him. Nobody was like, damn, dude, this is the Vikings, watch out. You know, even this year, they were like, oh, you're going to roll with Sam Darnold? You guys are going to stink. No, they were really good. And, you know, some of these other teams, I mean, McVay had some hype. McVay had kind of a legacy name, but he wasn't like teams were like wanted him over anybody. You know, it was just like, can the Raiders get lucky once? I feel like we're losing a coin flip every time. Like sometimes, like they make bad decisions, but also their luck is really bad too. So can they do it right once, where you find a guy who's a good leader and who actually can like install an offense or defense, and have that be the evergreen thing for a while. Like every other team seems to be able to do it every so often, even if it's to just a marginal success degree.
Yeah. I agree, man. All right, let's get some of these questions here. So, any thoughts on who Telesco might like in his head coaching search?
Whoever he likes, don't hire him.
Yeah, that's the thing. I legitimately don't want Tom Telesco hiring the head coach.
I mean,
have Telesco give you a list so you can have people to cross off.
To be fair to Tom,
his phone's dead, man. He's not picking up his phone, Tom. Yeah,
I'll play devil's advocate here. I mean, the guys he did hire usually made the playoffs at least once.
Okay, all right.
That's the standard we're going.
I'm just saying. I mean, like, if you think of Mike McCoy made the playoffs one time,
Mike
right?
McCoy.
right?
Anthony Lynn made it once.
Anthony Lynn, he made the playoffs.
Brandon Staley made it once. Yeah.
Brandon Staley made it once. So I mean, it's in the long run, it was a bad hire. But at the beginning, you're like, this is a great hire after like year 1 or year 2. You're like, this is what a hire.
But let's be real. The reason why Tom Telesco is in Las Vegas and not still with the Chargers is because they could not hire a head coach for shit when he was there.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And I'm kind of, to me, it's interesting. The Brady thing is interesting. You hate like leaning on it, and it feels like this like magical force that's been that the Raiders have now. Oh, watch out for Brady. But also kind of, yeah. You know, he spent the league watching other teams play. Or he spent the whole league year watching other teams play. And maybe that dude just fell in love with like a certain team's offense. And I know he didn't get the access to like go in their building and stuff because he was, you know, had a conflict of interest. But, you know, the guy's got an all 22 view of every game that he broadcasts. And he might just go, see if I can get this guy, you know? And I expect the name to kind of shock us a little bit.
And you know what, like Glenn, you talk about that, like we've mentioned his name a couple times. Like, I know a lot of people with Brady, like the easy reaction is to go to a guy like Vrabel or go to a guy like Flores that like is from the Patriots tree. But we don't, like, what we undervalue a little bit is Brady did spend time with the Bucs. Now, obviously, he wasn't there with Liam Cohen, but he knows people in the building, and I wouldn't be surprised if he had some sort of like familiarity or some like, you know, shook hands with them, got a beer with them at the bar or something like that. And like you talking about, like he's on Fox where they do a lot, or they probably did a good amount of Bucs games this year. Where like I wouldn't be surprised if that's the guy where he like ends up liking, and then if he knows enough people, like if he's still close with Jason Lick, the GM over there, and you know, asked him for his opinion on him. And I think Todd Bowles was there when Brady was there too. So like, I feel like that's like kind of like an underrated connection that maybe people might be overlooking, is like Brady has more than one team he's connected to, and maybe it is a guy like Liam Cohen, who I think even Vinny was talking about. Vinny named like 2 guys that they might be interested in. One of them was Vrabel, obviously, and then the other one was Cohen. So I think that could be an underrated connection that we're not paying enough attention to at this stage. Yeah,
the thing that scares me about Brady, and I just want to say that, is Bill O'Brien, because he is a big piece. That and that's what I'm saying. Like that would be some like left field shit that would come out of nowhere. Yeah. But
coaching Boston,
you talking about wait. Let's back up here for a second. You're talking about defending Tom Telesco's hires for making the playoffs one time. Bill O'Brien was decent until he got in the Gruden route and started taking over as a GM. Those Texans teams in the early.
What's Deshaun Watson doing now?
Yeah, exactly.
What's Deshaun Watson doing now? I you know, that's that. You want to talk about
those Texans teams were good, man.
I'm just saying, what a hire that would just piss Raiders fans off.
That would be off the wall.
But what was Boston College's record this year? Can you imagine getting a head coaching job after? Because I guarantee it wasn't that good. Whatever Boston College is, can you imagine?
They were decent.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be like hiring Tom Walsh, the bed and breakfast guy, dude. Like it would be that level of left field. I mean, to me, if you hire a defensive coach, I wouldn't hate it if you hired a Vrabel with Bill O'Brien as OC. But are you leaving Boston College to be the OC of the Raiders? I don't think so. I don't.
No. You would leave to be the head coach of the Raiders.
That's the only way he's leaving. So I'm a little happy that Telesco's here, because whatever head coach comes in isn't going to be like, oh, I have to be the GM too. Because like, I know that happened with McKenzie and Gruden, but I still think that was kind of a one-off situation. And then also I'm glad that, you know, Bill O'Brien's employed.
Yeah, because people don't know this, but like Brady tried to get Bill O'Brien to replace Bill Belichick after 2017. Like he went to Robert Kraft and asked him. So like, that's the thing. Like some big SCD said, why'd I put that in the world? But because that's his boy.
Yeah,
it really is. It's his dog. It's like they're like this, man. They're close knit. And if anybody could believe that Bill O'Brien could be a great head coach, it would be Brady. That's all I'm saying.
What if it's you know, I see it in the chat. What about Bruce Arians coming out of retirement, man?
That would.
I could get on board with Bruce Arians. I know I just hated on Pete Carroll for being old, but I do like Bruce Arians, at least the offensive angle.
No, and then you trade up for Cam Ward. Bruce Arians. I mean, I don't. Again, you guys have already talked about maybe that's not even a pathway, but I just mean, you know, gets you. Bruce Arians would be an interesting one if Tom was like, hey, you know.
Bruce Arians and Jameis again.
Worse things have happened. I've seen worse head coach quarterback combinations like last year. Like with the Raiders. So
if they brought in Bruce Arians, they'd have to get rid of Aiden O'Connell because he can't run that offense at all.
No,
no.
Not happening. Yeah,
no, those verticals and those deep crossers, that can happen.
It would be so cool. I mean, I expect Brady to be heavily involved. Everybody's saying he's going to, so it's And when I say heavily involved, I think it's going to be like, this is the guy.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be like, you sure? Yep. And then interview him. And, they're going to have to satisfy Rooney Rule. So I'm sure they're going to do that. And then it's going to be Brady's guy. Maybe it's both. I don't know. But just like for me, I think the Cohen is a possibility. I think Carroll's a possibility, but that feels like a weird thing. If Brady's picking the coach or if Brady is like heavily involved, I don't know why he goes to Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who ruined a Super Bowl against Brady.
Yeah, that's true. Rank Cohen, Carroll, or Vrabel as your preferred choices. I would go Cohen. People get mad at me, but I go Cohen. I would go exactly how this question went.
Carroll over Vrabel. You're confirmed there.
I would. I like Pete Carroll as a head coach, though. Like, people are he's old, but I do like him as a coach. Like, it wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
I think he's a smart decision maker with personnel.
Yeah, I agree. He got a lot out of. They had some bad drafts in Seattle. They had one really good one where they got Russell Wilson, Bruce Irvin, and then they had some guys undrafted free agents come in. They had some like pretty bad drafts in Seattle.
Yeah.
And they were constantly a playoff team. Yeah, I know. And they were able to find like 6th, 7th round pick guys to start on there. That I do like that about him. But to me, I would say I like Cohen. To me with Cohen, it's like you have 4 years. You give that guy you have 4 years to get this done, right? And if it's really bad, you got 3 years. But 4 years, like for real. If there's just no path to success, you have 3 to 4 years to do it. We're not no matter if you go 0-17 next year, we're not firing you. Despite what fans have that Men in Black, flash memory where they think they're going to be patient with a coach. They won't be. It doesn't matter. We got you. Vrabel is you can win now. Because again, if you're rebuilding, you're not doing it with Vrabel.
Yeah.
That means you think you can still win, which is they need to kind of get out of that mentality a little bit, honestly.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole we're gonna win games. What are your thoughts, Matt? What do we?
I was gonna say Cohen, Vrabel, and then Carroll, just because. Again, you guys talk me off the ledge where I wouldn't freak out like if they hired Pete Carroll, but it's still like I still can't get over the fact that he's 73 years old.
Think about Nate Hobbs.
What? Nate Hobbs? That's true. Nate Hobbs.
Trevon Merrick.
Nate Hobbs could be like Brandon Browner in that.
Yeah, man. Nate Hobbs, the Nate Hobbs Pro Bowl.
Nate Hobbs, the free. You mean the free agent?
I mean, they might bring it back. They hire Pete Carroll. Then Nate Hobbs coming back. Yeah, he's like, sure. I'm a sign. This is my system.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting for sure.
I'll say this: I've grown like Liam Cohen's grown a lot of me, and like I feel like he might end up being like the guy that I want more than anyone at this stage. So it'd be. I'll put it this way: it's Cohen, big gap, Vrabel, and Carroll.
Yeah, I like Liam Cohen. Somebody, I'm gonna get to the other question. Somebody asked like, what's special about Liam Cohen? Is that you gotta say Geno Smith's best year. And then what? Baker Mayfield's best year this year, and I forgot the team he was with in 2023. But yeah,
wasn't Geno?
He's got a good damn track record.
I thought Geno was Dave Canales. When was Liam Cohen's Geno?
I think he was under there. I think he was like 2022 maybe.
Because I thought he was Rams. I thought Liam Cohen was from the Rams in Kentucky.
Yeah. So Liam went. Yeah. So there's one thing.
You're right. I'm thinking Dave Canales.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My bad.
No, I do need to correct myself. I screwed up last time. Cohen was the OC that made Lou Levis like the.
I heard that. And I was like, no, Matt, you're wrong. He was the only guy.
I got my timeline mixed up.
He's the only guy.
He went to the
Lou Levis,
and then he went back to Kentucky in 2023.
No, and that was you floated it today on Twitter, man, where you were like, okay, like let's say Liam Cohen's got 4 years. No, I don't hate that. I think it's a good idea. Like you get 4 years, right? Like Liam Cohen, you're young. This team's young. We're gonna grow. We'll do our best to put a good product on the field. Will Levis might be available if they take Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Would you like this as your spot starter for the year? Like people would hate mayonnaise
with Liam Cohen.
Yeah, exactly.
And here's my pitch too. Like, here's my pitch for it too. Like, I think it's pretty clear the Titans are done with Will Levis. They fired the GM that drafted him, and Brian Callahan was not exactly shy about how much he hated Will Levis this past year, benching him I think twice. And they have the number 1 overall pick, so they get their pick of the litter. They want Cam Ward, they want Shedeur Sanders, whoever they can get him. I don't think I don't think Will Levis is going to cost much in a trade. I mean, what Justin Fields go for last year? A 5th round pick?
Yeah.
Actually
a 7th in the following year.
Got it, whatever it is. So you can get. I got to imagine you can get Will Levis for cheap. Obviously, and I mean, you try him for a year. You pair him with Liam Cohen, who again, Will Levis looked like a 1st round pick his 1 year. They worked together at Kentucky.
Yeah, for sure.
Cohen's got a decent track record with the quarterbacks. Part of it was working with the Rams in 2020, and then at Kentucky, like I said, did well with Levis. And then in the 2022 years, what kind of hurt him a little bit. But if you remember that year, that was the year that the Rams had all those injuries. Like I think Stafford got banged up, and that was the year that he took Baker Mayfield. Like Baker Mayfield came on the Tuesday or whatever, and they beat the Raiders on Thursday Night Football. Yeah. And that's how they had the connection. Now Baker also had the career revival last year with Canales, right? But I mean, he's had even better numbers this year, and that was with Chris Godwin for half the year. Mike Evans was out for 5 games. Offense didn't skip a beat. I broke it down in a little bit. He does some crazy stuff that's awesome in the running game. And I mean, you pair him with Will Levis, you get Will Levis again for cheap, and you basically say, here, Will, you get a year audition. If Will Levis sucks, well, look where the Titans are right now.
Yeah.
They're picking 1st overall. Like, you're like we've talked about before, you're either going to get Sam Darnold, who might not even be available, mind you. Like, who knows? Maybe the Vikings franchise tag him or something like that, and then make way for JJ McCarthy next year. So Sam Darnold is pretty much your best option on the free agent market at this stage. And then again, I've talked about this in the instant reaction. 1 through 3, picks 1 through 3, it's the same as last year, are all quarterback needy teams. Maybe one of these 3 or one of those 2 quarterbacks that you're looking at falls from them. And if they do, then you kind of have to raise your eyebrows of being, what do they know that we don't, and whatnot. So you're probably not getting one of the top quarterbacks in this year's draft. Why not take a chance on a guy like Will Levis, who again has had success with Liam Cohen and wasn't god awful as a rookie? Like, the problem is this past year he definitely regressed and made a lot of stupid boneheaded plays. But again, if he does that for you, all right, then next year we get a top 5 or maybe the number 1 overall pick, and you get a Arch Manning or the dude of South Carolina Sellers or Drew Aller if he comes out and it keeps developing. Like, I don't hate the
idea. Comes in at week 9 and gets you pick 13. So
that's the thing. You got to stick with Will Levis. If he sucks, if he keeps sucking, please let him keep sucking.
Well, and that's the bet. That's why you have to tell whoever you bring in. We keep saying Liam Cohen. We keep talking about him like he has the job. But any young offensive mind, you tell them like you have the job. Like, you're allowed to see if something works for a year. Wink, wink. Like, if we suck, you still have a job, basically, because these guys won't do that. They won't bring in a young guy like that because they're like, no, I got to go get this veteran who probably sucks, but is a veteran and can make us look kind of competent in theory or something. But like this guy, whoever you bring in, the reason I want to go young is because I think the team is young and the timeline is young. So I want like a guy to come in and take some of the stuff. Obviously you have Brock Bowers here. You're going to have a top 10 pick, top 7 pick. What are they? Pick 6? They pick 6. They're going to be able to get perhaps a wide receiver, perhaps another blue chip player. They're going to have that. And I like your idea for that. And I would pitch that to him. I would say, look, we'll do this. We don't care about next year. Straight up. Like, we don't care. If you hire Liam Cohen, in my opinion, you don't care about next year. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. All right. So let me get some more of these questions here. So let's go hire Staley, hopefully for DC. I'm going to answer that quickly. For DC, that'd be cool. Did you see the Fitzmagic clip saying he stay far away from Brian Flores?
Every quarterback would.
Yeah. Especially.
The guy's mean.
Yeah. I mean, just look at Tua said. Tua, like, legitimately hated him.
He has a trauma issue. I think Tua needs therapy after what happened with him and Brian Flores. What about Robert Saleh? No, maybe for DC.
You want to talk about bad clock management? People are forgetting just because the Jets sucked with Jeff Ulbrich. Robert Saleh was really bad clock man. I don't know what's up with defensive coaches about it. Raheem Morris took 3 timeouts into the half and getting that Washington game. Like Robert Saleh couldn't manage the clock to save his life. Like, no, I'm good. Robert Saleh is probably, in my opinion, I think he's going to find his way back onto the San Francisco staff one way or another.
I think so. I think he's be their DC. That's why they just let their DC go. They didn't fire him. They're like, hey, man, we're going to demote you and bring Robert Saleh in.
Oh, that's done deal. Then.
Yeah, that's done. What do you think of the Brady Telesco dynamic?
Again,
we don't know. We don't know for sure.
Again, here's what I'll say: you don't want Telesco being too involved in your head coach decisions. Like, as long as he's okay with being like, hey, Tom, you know what you're great at? You're great at finding the best player available in the first round of the draft. You're a good personnel guy. You're a good drafter.
Yep. Stay
the hell away from the head coaching decision.
Yeah.
And I feel like hopefully he's on board with that. But yeah, I think I'm completely on board with making sure he stays far away from that decision.
Agreed.
Any college coaches that you guys like?
I think the one hot name is Dan Lanning. That'd be interesting to me.
Oh, yeah.
What about Marcus Freeman?
Signed a 4-year extension. So sorry, guys. Focus on the Nittany Lions right now. So
what other?
I mean, I would love it personally, but I watch it be the worst of both worlds. I lose my favorite college coach and then he sucks with the Raiders. Yeah, like
I don't know. I get it's like, what's the most recent example of the college like to pro working? I feel like there's just, I know obviously like there's plenty of examples of other like philosophies not working, but like it just seems like every time Pete Carroll, there you go. Pete Carroll, when he got hired 20 years ago at the spring age of 57 or 53 or whatever. Yeah. I mean, outside of like that, there's like, I mean, I guess Harbaugh too would be the other one, but I get very wary of the college to pro jump. Like that seems like it doesn't work out more often than it does. Like it significantly doesn't. I mean, look at Nick Saban, guy's the greatest college coach of all time and was terrible at the job. I mean,
yeah, and Sark might see too many demons in Vegas, man.
Oh yeah, there is Sark.
For both sides, that is not a good combination.
I'm not trying to have relapse Sark in Vegas, man. I like him now, and he's doing just fine where he's at. But I do like his offense, but no, just
yeah. Is there any chance for our first round pick for JJ McCarthy? This is Matt right here. This is
I mean, I'd be down for it. It just does not seem like that's happening. I think like that's been in the media a little bit, and the Vikings seem pretty keen on shutting that down. It doesn't seem like he's available. I think someone even said like it's not happening.
Deion Sanders.
No, come on.
Deion Sanders is a college coach. He couldn't handle NFL players.
It's so funny if they hired Deion Sanders, but then like the Giants drafted Shador. And like then you just have Deion Sanders without Travis Hunter or Shador.
People could ask about the OC from UNLV. He just got a job though.
Sacramento
State stingers up,
dude. What a Sac State. Side note: they have like they're just trying to spend. They were going to hire Michael Vick. They hired actually a better coach, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they're trying to spend like $50 million in NIL money. Crazy. Who's going? Dude, I knew somebody that had 283 receiving yards at my high school that played at Sacramento State. 283 yards in like C League high school. And now they're like hiring real coaches. Insane.
Yeah. Some people are saying Lincoln Riley.
No.
Lincoln Riley can't handle players.
No.
In college.
No. And also USC sucks. So what you're going to hire him when USC isn't even good? Like
they don't give out
Heismans in the NFL. There's no reason to have Lincoln Riley as your coach.
That'd be like the Cardinals hiring Cliff Kingsbury. It's like a college coach that failed, and then all of a sudden you just expect him to be better in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, Cliff might get another job this year, so he might be with the Bears.
Yeah, by the way, side note: Cliff Kingsbury is the big winner in all this. I mean, he almost got hired by the Raiders, and now he's about to get head coaching interviews.
Jay Dales, right?
Killing it with the Commanders in the playoffs.
Could get the Raiders job.
Yeah. What Patrick Graham?
No, he's going to take the Bengals DC job. I feel like.
You think so?
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I would too if I was him. I mean, you're going to play a little bit more meaningful football, in my opinion. Like just I don't know. To that, Lou Anarumo, I don't think is that bad. They never keep their talent, so it's like pretty tough to establish defense there. But
Yeah.
I could see them going for Graham, and Graham has never struck me as like a head coach to me. You hear him talk,
more of a scheme guy. Yeah,
just seems like a scheme guy, like grinding tape. He never struck me as like this.
And Glen,
yeah,
I feel like you guys talked about it earlier. Like, I feel like the Raiders they still had their a lot of the staff from the McDaniels and McDaniels, influx or whatever. I feel like it's time to all right, we got to move on. We got to put that all behind us and move forward.
Yeah, let's get all of these guys out of here. That was my thing. That was why I was in favor of the firing, because it still felt like it was McDaniel's staff with AP as the head coach. Yeah. It still felt that way. Somebody said Jeff Saturday. It's not even funny.
No TV guys, please.
All right, guys. I think we're out of questions. We got 1,000 people in here. The season's over. You guys are back.
All it takes is someone to get fired.
All it takes is somebody to get fired. You know what I'm saying? The season's over. You guys are back, and we're back to September instant reactions. So we appreciate you guys joining us for this instant reaction, going over the firing of Antonio Pierce and who's going to be the next head coach. Like I said, we're going to keep it's draft time for us, to be honest. I mean, of course, when the next head coach gets hired, I'll do a film breakdown of their offensive scheme or the OCs. We're gonna, we'll do all that shit. We're gonna get you guys all that good stuff for you guys. But yeah, it's draft season. I'm about to start getting the draft now after this. So I'm gonna just, I gotta get ready for Senior Bowls. Get a creep up on me super quick here. So I gotta get started on that, and see what's happening there. So it's draft season, guys. That's what we're looking. Free agent season's gonna be coming too. Soon as they hire the coach, somebody said Joy Taylor for head coach. I just Jesus. What a way to end the show.
I'm not for that personally. But,
Mark would be down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So it's a serious note. We're out of here, guys. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe. We're out of here. Peace.